Hello, coming from South Lake Tahoe, California. I'm Senior Grandmaster.Hemenes for Kajukenbo Live. This is our midweek podcast, and I have the main question was they were asking about my book. When's it going to come out? What's it about? Some of the stories in there, and I'll straighten out a few myths today. The book is it's called My Story, Like It or Not. Now, it's a tell-all book, so it's just not about punching and kicking. You're not going to see a bunch of stick figures in there, blocking and all that stuff. It's about my life through martial arts in the last 50 years. In the martial arts and personal life after, or in between, not after, in between. The biggest myth that I've had in years was that I was a drug dealer, I was mobbed up, stuff like that. And that rumor has been going on for the last 40 years. And it's just totally ridiculous. Never in my entire life had to do anything to do with drugs. Ever. In fact, I've never even smoked a marijuana cigarette. Or any kind of drug. When I was younger, we drank, of course, like everybody else did. But never did I do anything like that. Now, myself, Grandmaster Baca, Grandmaster Willis, same way. We've never touched any of that stuff. And it's not because we're square. It's because we chose not to and we know better. But the rumors went around. The FBI, they sent a rat into my studio one time. She was in there for like 6 months, just snooping around, trying to find things out. And then when I found out she was a rat, of course I had her leave, kind of the hard way, but she left. And then the phones would be tapped. I'd be sitting at my desk. I'd sit out my window because I could see during the day. I could see out, but they couldn't see in. And here's a cop across the street from the studio. This long camera taking pictures. In fact, one of my black belts went out there to get the camera one time, snag it, and he just missed him. I'd go to my house in Lake Tahoe. My daughter would go, "Dad, they're here." I'd pull up. Sure enough, they're parked out down the street, just in a big white van, big cameras hanging out, like you see on TV. But they never could find out because nothing was going on. What people didn't really realize, I had a successful studio. I had almost 400 students at one time in our peak. Plus, on top of that, I had a chain of cigar shops. I had a construction company. I had a carpet cleaning company. I had so many different businesses that that's what brought in a lot of money during the month. And people didn't realize that. And all they thought to themselves was, "Oh, we'll think bad," like most people do. They never want to see the good, they want to see the bad. And what they don't know is I've helped a lot of people. A lot of parents come to me, couldn't make their house payments, I paid them. They couldn't make their car payment, I paid them. They didn't have a car, I gave them a car. So, you make a lot, but my thing, I gave a lot too. Plus, I was gambling in Las Vegas for 7 years very heavily. What I played in Las Vegas, in 1 month, most people make in 3 years. And that's just the way it was back then. And I'm not bragging, it's just fact. So I want people to understand where I'm coming from so they understand, what's going on. That's why you'll see in the book, there's all kinds of things. I explain everything in more detail. Like my house in Discovery Bay, I have to admit, it does look like a drug dealer's house. It looks identical to Scarface's house. My office had cameras all around it, monitors around the whole house, Rolls Royce, limousines, Mercedes, Corvettes in the driveway. So it did look that way. It had Roman statues all over it because I wanted to be like Caesar's Palace. And that's what I wanted. And that's what I made it look like. So, and people not realizing that I wanted a Caesar's Palace look, they thought the opposite, that I was doing something bad, but we weren't. Now, was it called the Playboy Mansion? Oh, yes, it was. And that's part of the story in there too. And every weekend there was wild parties there. Every weekend, my poker room was better than the casino. I had TV monitors all around the whole poker room. You can watch any kind of sport game you want. It was just top of the line. But the Playboy thing, yeah. Sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I would dress in my smoking jacket. I would wear my silk pajamas. We'd come down, and then people would show up that I didn't even know half the women that were there, and most of them, to be honest with you, most of them walking around naked, and this is every weekend. And it's just, that's the way the lifestyle was back then. But then a lot of people would say, oh, I'd love to have that. But I'm going to tell you, no, you wouldn't. Because it got very boring and very old fast. My loneliest times back then was I came from the poker room where I played outside the house in my limousine alone coming back to my house. That was the loneliest time. So you can have all the money in the world, all the fame in the world, as much women as you want, but that doesn't mean anything if you're not happy with yourself. So like right now, I live in Lake Tahoe, quiet life now. I take care of my 3 children. They're 7, 5, and 4. I'm with them 7 days a week. They never leave my side. So now I have a chance to be a really good dad instead of just an ATM. So I hope that kind of cleared up a few things right there on that part. Now my Las Vegas things. I just spent 7 years in Las Vegas. I stayed there at Caesar's Palace for 7 years, and the way it worked was I was there for 7 days. I came back to the studio for 7 days. I went back for 7 days, and I did this for 7 years. Me and my aunt, my aunt was my mom's age. I never missed a month for 7 years. My slot host would call me up. You want to go to Sinatra's party? Yeah, boom. I'm on a plane the next day. They send me over there. Because we gamble so much. Now, what people don't understand, let's say I spent $200,000 that month gambling. I didn't spend $200,000 of my money. I spent $200,000 of their money and part of mine. So it's called coin in and coin out. So when that figure comes up, you're going to think, oh, that's a lot. But it's a lot of it's their money that I'm playing with back. And the way Las Vegas works, either I came home with so much money I couldn't put it in any more pockets or my suitcase, or you came home with nothing. There is no in between. And that's just the way it was back then. Now, would I say that I had a fun time? It was probably the most funnest times I ever had because everything was taken care of. Our room, everything was RFB, and our room was, for example, was so big we had 3 jacuzzis in our room. That's how big our room was. It was just me and my aunt. And my aunt was my mom's age. But she stayed in her side of the penthouse. I stayed in my side of the penthouse. Did the casino offer the women to come up there all the time? But I'd always tell them no. Out of respect for my aunt, and plus I don't do the hooker thing. So there's a limit that you have. But one other story in my book was, this is a good story, is I met in Las Vegas in the 7 years, this man and his wife, way older than me. He looked like that big actor, just huge, big beard and stuff, and huge guy. He probably weighed about 350. Huge. Anyway, but for 7 years, I watched him win $100,000, $150,000 in a slot machine tournament. He always had the penthouse, at the casinos, either Caesar's Palace or the Desert Inn when it was up. So this went on and on and on. So eventually, we became good friends. We'd all eat together because we had like a little clique of all these people that would play in a high-end area every week. We'd play together. So he came to me one time and he's like, "Hey," he goes, "You want to make some money?" I go, "Yeah, how's that?" Now, if an average person would have came to me and told me this story, I would have told him just to get out of here, get lost, because he's full of it. But since I've seen him win all this money and I've known him all these years, I kind of was like, okay. So he said, "We'll talk." So that night I had to fly back, and he goes, "Can me and my wife ride in a limousine with you to the airport?" And I went, "Sure." So because we got a business opportunity. He goes, "We want to make some martial arts movies, and Ron Howard is going to produce them, and they want a new action star, and they want me to do these movies." So I kind of was like, "Wow, you're kidding, right?" He's all, "No." I said, "Well, we'll talk about it." And, he goes, "No, I'll set it up," and da-da-da-da-da. I said, "Okay." So the next time I seen him 2 weeks later, he came up with this deal. It's an oil well deal. And whatever amount you give him, you get it double back. So if you give him 10,000, you get 20,000. You give him 40,000, you give him 80,000. So first thing I thought to my head was, scam, But seeing him win all this money, I thought, okay, well, all right, I'll buy in on you. So he's okay. He goes, next weekend, me and my wife will drive to Lake Tahoe, and the Caesars was here at the time. Now it's Mount Blue. We'll stay at Caesars. He goes, and we'll do our deal. So you got to follow the story. It's really good. So, and he looked just like Orson Welles. That's how big he looked. And he had that ground, like that's kind of the way he talked. So we got up here, and I gave him like $10,000. I go, here. He said, okay. So then we had dinner and stuff. And then he said, hey, tomorrow me and my wife are going to look at some property. He goes, you want to go? So I said, sure. So we drove, and I don't know if anybody's familiar when they filmed The Godfather. They filmed The Godfather in the Kaiser Estates in Lake Tahoe. And so that's where we went. And like the scene with Michael when he shot his brother, that was like the lobby area, part of the house. It was kind of creepy in a way, but anyway, the condominiums were in there, and they started out at $3.5 million to $1.5 million. And so we looked at his, and it was nice. We looked at the other one, that was nice. So the real estate guy sat down. He goes, "What do you think?" He goes, "I want to buy 2." Now you gotta follow the story. So then I said, he sat there and he went, "Okay." He goes, "I want to buy the one for $3.5 million for me and my wife. I want to buy the one for $1.8 million for Tony here." And I kind of looked at him and I go, "What?" And he goes, "Oh, we're gonna make all kinds of money." He says, "Don't worry about it. You can just pay me later." So he pulls out his checkbook to write the guy the check for the 2 units. And the real estate guy, young guy, poor guy, he was just shaking because that commission and that was huge. And he goes, "No, we're gonna open up an escrow." He goes, "And then we'll do it." So Don said, "Okay, well, I'll have my lawyer wire the money to the escrow." So he left, and I was kind of like in awe a little bit, right? So then we go back to the casino, I drop him off, and then we're gonna have dinner again. And I'm standing in line, and he gives me a check for $20,000 for the $10,000 I gave him, and then doubled it. He goes, "Here, just go ahead and take it now at a Charles Schwab account." So I said, "Okay." And he goes, "I got something else for you." So he gives me a check for $50,000 for my birthday. And I go, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." He goes, "No, I go, "No, you just bought that property." I said, "No." He goes, "No." He goes, it's on me." He goes, "But," he goes, "don't cash him until I get back to Kansas City." That's where he lived. So that way I could have my lawyer transfer some money into different accounts. And I went, "Okay, no worries." So at the time, I was looking for a Rolls Royce. And I called my slot host up that day. And she's working the Desert Inn, actually. And her name was Valerie. And I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a Rolls Royce." She goes, "Oh, look." Not even 20 minutes later, she calls me up. "I found one." I go, "That fast?" And I wasn't doing anything that day, and I was at my house in Tahoe. So I said, "All right, I'll just fly up there and fly back the same day." So I fly there, and Don's there, of course. And he goes, "Can I go look at the car with you?" So I said, "Sure." So we went over there, looked at the car. Car was nice. I told, and Don said, "Let me make the deal." He goes, "Because I had talked to these guys." I said, "Okay." So he makes the deal, and he said, "That's fine with you?" I go, "Yeah, that's fine." And so I told the guy, "I'll wire the money up." And Don said, "No." And I had a wad of hundreds. And he took out $500 and he handed the guy $500. He goes, "Here's $500. He goes, I'm going to buy the car." He goes, "I'll have my attorney wire you the money tonight." So I said, "Don, you have to do that." "No, I just want to do that for you." I said, "Okay." So then I fly back to my house in Tahoe. And I waited a day or so. I didn't hear anything. So I thought, So I called up the guy that had the car. And I said, "Hey," I go, "where's my car?" "And your car?" And the exact words was, "That fat son of a bitch came back here and got his $500 back after you left." And I was like, "What?" So then it just clicked. I go, "Oh my God, he's a scam guy." So remember, I had $70,000 in checks. So I went to the bank, and of course they checked on him, and both $70,000 was no good. The Charles Schwab account was closed. He was writing him out of a closed account. So I thought, oh my God. So then I started doing some research, and he had burned so many people in Las Vegas all these years with that same Charles Schwab account. So it wasn't the money. I can give a shit about the 10 grand. What it was the principle, because I thought he was my friend. And this is the point I'm getting about. You have no friends when you're in that kind of like limelight. So I said, "I'll fix him." So I couldn't get a hold of him. I got a hold of some people in Las Vegas, and they're "Yeah, oh my God, really?" I went, yeah. So, I got a little pull, so I got a hold of his social security number and I canceled all his credit cards, everything, because I knew he had nowhere to go. He'd go back to Las Vegas because Las Vegas puts him up. So my slot host Valerie, she knew all about it. And about a week later, I get, "Oh my God, Tony!" She goes, "He's on his way." I go, "You're kidding?" And I already talked to the police department in South Lake Tahoe. I talked to the police department in Las Vegas. So sure enough, I was in the balcony of the Desert Inn at 7 in the morning, and him and his wife come walking in. And remember, he looks just like Orson Welles, so he swells, boom, boom. He's huge. And so she went down there, met him, and took him to breakfast. And so I sat in the back with the security at the Desert Inn, and they said, well, so they got a hold of Valerie at the restaurant. They said, "Just walk him out and walk away from him. We'll take care of it." So he tells me, he goes, "You want to come watch this?" I went, "Sure." So then he comes walking out, and his wife sees me, and she comes up to give me a kiss on my cheek, and I just kind of turned my head. I said, "Just get away from me." And by that time, these 3 security guards and the detective slammed him up against the showroom curtains right there by the Desert Inn, and they arrested him. I guess this isn't the first time he's been arrested for doing this. So long story short, he calls the casino and wanting to talk to me, and he tells me, "I'll wire $250,000 to you right now if you just let me out." And I said, "Wire the $250,000 then." Of course, he didn't have any money. I knew he was lying. So they transported him from Las Vegas to Lake Tahoe because that's where I gave him the money. I went to court like 4 times on this, and he had throat cancer too. So he would do it on purpose. He'd ask for a white towel, so he'd get up there and he'd cough up like big blood clots in his throat and stuff. And so he's up there handcuffed, and so the judge told me that I won't get no money from him because he hasn't got anything. So I'm just like, whatever, just the point that he was spent like 2 months in jail until his court thing was over. And then, for what I hear, after he got out of jail, they found him dead somewhere. So I guess he must have crossed the wrong person. So that's what happened to him. And that's the kind of stories that you're going to hear. It's stuff like that. And this isn't made up stuff. This is fact that went on. So the book's just not about the punching and kicking. And the point I'm getting at is you can have all the money in the world. You can have everything you want. But if you're not happy, all that means nothing. Nothing. And too many times in my life, most of the time, the waitresses, the people that were around me, they didn't care about me. All they wanted was like what I can give them. Especially the cocktail waitresses in the poker room. And most of the time, I didn't want the money. I just played because I wanted to play. And if I won, I usually turned around and gave the racks to the cocktail waitress. So some people used to get mad at me, some of the guys playing. He said, "Why do you play?" He goes, "You take our money, and then you turn around and you give it to the cocktail waitress." But that cocktail waitress that I gave that money to, she paid her car payment with it, and her light bill, or in a PG&E bill, because her mom had told me that. So it went to good cause. Now there's all kinds of them that tried to scam money, and I'm not stupid. I might play dumb, but I let it slide. So if you ever want to walk in my shoes, you think twice. Because that's how it is sometimes. And if people don't know any better, you think the worst, But that's my story. And when my book comes out, it's my story, like it or not, from Senior Grandmaster Hemenes. So today, this is my video. Thank you. And this Saturday, we're going to have Grandmaster Brendan Rebello, if he can be on our podcast, because he's having problems there because of the virus over there. They're having a bad time. If not, well, I will do Greece. But again, from South Lake Tahoe, I'm Senior Grandmaster Hemenes, and thank you for having me.